Welcome to Close to My Heart Twisted Sisters YouTube hop. I'm so excited to be invited to participate in this hop. My name is Sandy Zimmer, and I'm a Close to My Heart independent consultant in Canada. Today I will be twisting our flip-flops and using them as the main component of the shaker card. I will post in the comments all the stamp sets and other products that we use to create this card. So I begin with the Stitched Square Frames, and I'm using the middle-sized one. I run it through my Cuttlebug, and of course you can use any cutting machine that you have. And when I run it through, it creates a frame for me as well as a mat. So I need 2 of these frames, so I run it through twice. So you can see here that I use the mat as a guide to where my opening is going to be. So I'm lining it up on my paper, and then I will draw it out with my pencil shortly. So I'm using a piece of white daisy cardstock, which I've cut down to 4 1/4 by 11. And I use my bone folder to create the crease at 5 1/2. So there you can see that I've drawn out my lines, and I'm going to use my cut rail paper trimmer to cut that opening out. Now the great thing about this cut rail paper trimmer is that I can line that rail right up against my drawing. And you can see that little triangle there. That's where my blade is going to puncture my paper, and then I'm able to cut it. So with this particular trimmer, I don't have to cut end to end. I can insert the blade and cut from any point and stop at any point. So here I continue to cut out that square, again using the cut rail along my pencil line, and then just trimming up or trimming down. So the blade is double-sided, so it can cut in either direction, which is super awesome. Okay, so you can see that I've popped out that piece, and I'm just going to lay my frame on the outside of that to make sure that it matches up. Next, I grab my flip-flops, and they're 3 inches by 3 inches. And my frame is also 3 inches by 3 inches. So I want to cut it down just a tiny bit. So I go to 2 7/8 and then cut that little flip-flop off. So I'm removing the part that would normally be my flip-flop on a layout. And I'm sort of left with a plastic pocket. So you can see here that I've got the other frame on the outside of my card, and it matches up perfectly. And I just grab my rub and eraser and just get rid of any excess glue from when I've glued that down. And next, I have already put some adhesive around the outside of that frame. And I'm just making sure which side is the opening. And I'm just going to use my scissors to just pull off that paper backing on the adhesive. And the tip of the scissors works great for this. It just allows me to get in there and pick it up really nicely and easily. And then I grab my flip-flop and just make sure the top is on the one part where I have not removed the backing. And I just carefully place it on there. Next, you'll see that I'm just using my bone folder to just make sure I've got some good adhesion there. And I'm going to use my scissors to just carefully trim off any excess of the flip-flop that might be showing over the frame. Okay, so once that's done, I grab my mixture of sequins, and I've just sort of developed my own little ones here that I like the combination of them. Of course, we sell various sequins, and if you're interested in that, you can just send me a message and I can give you some ideas of it, or you can look in our catalog or check it out online. So then next, I just take off that last little piece of the adhesive and seal that up, and then I go around and put glue all the way around again. So now I'm going to show you how to use the Spectrum Noirs to color these little guys. And I'm just doing one kind of in a speeded up version here just to show you. So I'm coloring in the little giraffe, and you'll notice that I start with the lightest colors first, and then I add my darker colors over top. And the nice thing about these TriBlend markers is each one has 3 shades of the same color. So it makes it super easy to come up with your coloring combinations because you don't have to think about it too much. It's already done for you. You'll notice that I've put the pink down and it starts out very vibrant, and then as I go with my lighter browns over top of it, it becomes a little bit more muted. So that's another tip and technique that you can use. If you're interested in learning more about how to use these Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, just let me know and I can do a little video on how that works as well. So I just continue to color this, and it is a speeded up version. I don't show you how to do them all, I just work on this little giraffe. But as you're watching that, I'm just going to tell you a few techniques that I don't videotape. And one is that I go in with my scissors and I fussy cut this out. Now, we do have this stamp set with thin cuts. In fact, I do have it, but I chose to cut it out by hand just because I want it to be a little tighter. I didn't want that little white edge around it. Now, you could totally do it with the thin cuts and that would be absolutely fine. The choice is yours. When I cut my note, I cut off his horns and his little tail because it's really tough to cut around those images. And I'll show you later in the video that I just re-stamp it on the background and use the horns and the tail from that. And you'll understand better when we get to that portion. So I also will grab a black marker and go around the edge just to finish it off. So here I'm showing you the original card, and that we're going to use the Distress Oxide inks to color the background. So here I'm using the peacock feathers and the mowed lawn, and we have new blending tools as well. And you can see that when I started this with the peacock feathers, I ended up with a little bit of a dark mark where I first did my impression. The great thing about using these tools is that they blend out really, really well. So I keep working on it and it comes out quite nicely and it blends nice. Then I add my mowed lawn in and just blend those together. And you'll see that periodically I close the card up just to make sure that I've got the ink where I want it to be. So I continue to work that through. And then I'm spritzing my mat with a little bit of water, and I'm going to use my brush to just pick up a little bit of that color and flick it onto the card. So you'll see that it's created some dots, and if I just grab a little paper towel or a dry wet one, then you can see that it just picks off that wetness and it just leaves some nice little flick marks, and I really like the look of that. So next you can see that I'm working on the front of the card and just repeating the process. So I'm just blending in my peacock feathers all around the edge. And I suggest you start with a light hand and then you can go a little darker or heavier as you go. But of course you can't really remove it. So start light and see how you like it, and then you can add more to it. So I do my peacock feathers and then I add my mowed lawn in there. And you can do as much or as little as you want. And you will see here again that I do a little bit of spritzing on the color, pick it up with my paintbrush, and then just flick it back onto the card. And again, I really like the look of this. Of course, you don't have to do this. If you wanted to, you could even just use colored cardstock and avoid having to do all of this yourself. I decided to do a little bit more on the inside again, and there you can see it. So now I'm lining up my little giraffe and trying to figure out where I want to put him. I'm stamping the image on the inside of the card because I want to use the horns and the tail from that stamp. So I'm putting a little bit of glue on the back of my little giraffe. And I'm just simply going to place him on top, carefully lining him up with the stamped image. And you can see here that the tail and the horns show through. And it's easy peasy. You'd never know that it wasn't part of the original design. Looks like I'm super good at fussy cutting. I love that technique. So next you'll see that I grab the lion and I put adhesive on the back of him. And I decide to stick his mane sort of underneath the giraffe's neck and his bum just sort of overlapping over the top. And I just love the look of that dimension that creates. Now I don't put any glue on his tail. I sort of like that it sticks up a little bit. You could totally use a dimensional adhesive if you want, or just put some adhesive on it if that's your choice. Here I'm grabbing the stamp that says Parte, and I want to put it on the inside of the card. On the original card, I put it to the left of the lion, but I didn't really leave myself enough room on this card, so I decided to put it underneath. I think that's just super cute. Of course, you can leave it on or you can leave it off. The choice is yours. Here I'm showing you that I've stamped the happy birthday part onto various pieces of leftover cardstock in colors, and I've layered them up and attached them to the front of the card. Next, I'm attaching my little turtle and making him look like he's climbing up on the boxes. And you'll see in a second here the finished product. So I'd like to say thank you for watching. Please follow into the comments and you will see who's next up on the hop. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.